Donald Trump continues his press blackout at the White House. He has closed the White House down to the press, but he's releasing photos and videos of himself holding up a map where he crosses out Lake Ontario, and it says Lake America right now, and people are just sick and tired of this stuff. I'll show you what some Republican voters, what Iowa voters, what the American people have been saying about this Trump regime. Take a look at this MAGA Iowan Trump voter. Here's what he had to say. Play this clip.
2 years out of high school and I'm already struggling for my life. It's just, that's not the American dream.
If you could talk directly to President Trump, what would you tell him right now?
I would just look him in the face and just say, you. That's about it.
Because people are sick and tired of what Donald Trump's doing this morning. I mean, he hasn't made a press appearance in about 2 days, which is good. But he keeps posting these deranged videos where he's attacking Canada. Nobody wants him to be attacking Canada. Nobody wants these never-ending wars. You know, people are really struggling out there, and he's doing stuff like this. Here, play this clip.
So this is Lake Ontario in Canada and in the United States. But we're going to make a little change. We're going to call it something different than Lake Ontario. We're going to call it Lake America. And all it takes is a good pen and some intelligence. So Lake Ontario, that's gone. Lake.
And then all you hear from the MAGA Republican Trump bootlickers, these sycophants in Congress, you know, you've got MAGA Mike Johnson out in Texas today, and he's with a MAGA Republican Congress member there, Monica De La Cruz in Texas's 15th congressional district. And MAGA Mike's like, we've got great news. We're doing a convention here, and Donald Trump's going to be at the Dallas midterm convention, and he's basically on the ballot because we think that Donald Trump's done so great for America. Isn't everybody thriving? No, MAGA Mike. People aren't thinking about golden ballrooms or gilding bronze statues gold or gallivanting around throwing golf tournaments for yourself with Natalie and then hiding in catering trucks after NATO summit because you're worried that Iran's going to kill you after starting never-ending wars with Netanyahu. This was MAGA Mike this morning.
The president called me 2 nights before Thanksgiving last fall, and he said, Mike, we got to do a midterm convention. And I said, that's not a thing. And he said, make it a thing. Okay, so we're going to do a midterm convention September 9th and 10th. First time in history any party's ever done this. We're going to Dallas, Texas, y'all. Could have been anywhere in the country. Go to Texas, right? And we're going to have everybody there, 2 nights of earned media on national television. We're going to parade all of our stars across the stage. We're going to highlight the great work of people like Monica De La Cruz, okay? Yes. We're going to talk about what we've done for the people. And then the president's going to look right in the camera and say, I am on the ballot, okay? Because even though his name isn't, right, his administration, his legacy, the American First agenda is.
Then you have one of the other top MAGA Republican Congress members, Tom Emmer, saying the following.
Great question. But I think regardless of what the other media outlets that would like to try and convince Americans that we're not motivated, Republicans are motivated. And Donald Trump is motivated. The president is the one who goes out and literally performs these rallies. He'll be down in Dallas for this first of a kind mid-term in convention. And the whole idea is to remind people how hard we all worked to try and stop the advance of Marxism and socialism and anarchy that is now the left with our great president, Donald J. Trump. And I'm very confident that Republicans understand, and all Americans, by the way, all Americans understand.
And then just like the MAGA Republican Party is so damn weird. You've got the MAGA Republican congressman from Michigan. I mean, after all of the stuff that Donald Trump has done to hurt Michigan, including this catastrophic trade war against Canada, the Michigan congressman wants to talk about this on the right-wing Benny Johnson show. This is what they're talking about. Here, play this clip.
Well, the first thought that comes to mind is that circumcision has a sacred history. It's a covenant between man and God. It's setting yourself apart as chosen from Abraham. And this has been passed along in our Judeo-Christian values as something to...
The hell is even going on? And that's why Republican voters are saying they've had enough. And you're hearing more and more and more of stuff like this. I mean, CNN featured 2 Texas Republican voters who went on CNN to announce they're voting Democrat for the first time because of the way Greg Abbott and Ken Paxton have given all of these tax breaks to the data centers to attract them into Texas. You know, like in Texas, there's no tax on the energy costs. There's no energy taxes or no tax on the energy costs from these data centers. These data centers were given, like, you know, you want to talk about welfare. It's welfare for the billionaires and welfare for the data centers. Here, play this clip.
We've been fighting this for 3 years, and we realized that the Republican Party has given us nothing more than the middle finger. I have been a staunch Republican my entire life. I'm done. Anyone that was in office during this mess that hasn't supported us, it's not going to get my vote. And amazingly, we've had 2 Democrats, one absolute running for Congress and one running for governor, that were willing to come out and listen to us. Mm-hmm. Not the Republicans, the Democrats. Mm. And it's really changed my thinking. And this is a people thing.
Another 3-time Trump voter in Iowa saying the following. Let's play this clip.
President Trump promised to bring down prices. You voted for him 3 times. Are you disappointed?
Very disappointed. Very disappointed.
Why?
Because the prices haven't gone down. I don't know. I'm over it, I think. Over the Trump thing. The Trump wagon, whatever you want to call it.
You could talk directly to the president about the war, about the prices, about the economy. What would you tell him?
Stop the bullshit. Make America great, like you said. That's what I'd say.
No, and for these MAGA people, it's all some like sick and bizarre game, right? This morning on Steve Bannon, you had one of the top White House officials, Peter Navarro, who's a criminal, and Bannon's a criminal, and they're both involved in, you know, they have a lot of influence in the White House. But Navarro has a big influence over the Canada trade war that Trump launched. And listen to how Navarro refers to the Canadian people. He says, Canadians are useful idiots being used by Prime Minister Carney and Premier Doug Ford. Here, play this clip.
That's his playbook. And the Canadian people are kind of the useful idiots of that process because they reward that rhetoric. The rhetoric is, oh, poor Canada, the U.S. is a bully, they're attacking our sovereignty.
Are we gonna back down? Okay, I got it. But you've got this tough tariff regime right now. Are we going to see this through to its bitter end?
There's no back down. We are very disappointed. Okay, you know that word, Steve? That's the worst word in the president's handbook. It's like they retraded the deal at the end. We gave them a great deal. They retraded it, and they're dumping all over us. You know, Laurel and Hardy. You know, you got Mark Carney and Doug Ford, the guy who took too many hits playing hockey.
When the president says, I'm very disappointed, stand by for heavy rolls. That means we're going to general quarters. Hang on for a second.
You're going to be a headline.
Hang on.
I mean, this Trump regime's really a bunch of sick people, huh? We heard from Caroline Levitt this morning, and she's like, and our plan as it relates to Iran is we're going to do nothing. That's our game plan right here. And no negotiations, and that'll teach Iran a lesson. That's Donald Trump, the great deal maker and the great negotiator. No, he's a destroyer. He got us involved in this catastrophic war. Inflation is surging. Corporate profits seem up. Donald Trump's billionaires are doing well. Most Americans, though, are suffering, struggling, can't afford gas, diesel's record highs, can't afford rent. And this is what Caroline Levitt, it's going exactly as planned. Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz. We lost the war. We don't have weapons. Here, play this clip.
Operation Epic Fury to destroy their military. Now we have Operation Economic Outcast to destroy their economy. No negotiations are happening right now, and this will continue until the president feels that maybe they come to the table in a meaningful way. We have not seen that yet, but of course, that's at the discretion of the president as commander-in-chief. He, of course...
Yeah, and this is what The Atlantic reported. The White House wants the Iran war out of the headlines before the midterms. With the conflict dragging on, gas prices still high, and Republicans worried about losing Congress, Trump is shifting towards sanctions and economic pressure. One advisor told The Atlantic, we're just trying to hang on until the midterms. Yeah, so if we just do this economic blockade, that's going to be our strategy. And then nobody will remember that Donald Trump and Netanyahu launched the catastrophic war. Of course, we're going to remember. Of course, we know we're not stupid. I know you have, 13% of Americans still support this, strongly supportive Trump. But most Americans are like, no, what the hell is this? And while you have Caroline Leavitt saying that, and the Trump regime's plan is, we're just going to ignore the catastrophic war, like a miracle, it'll all go away. The Associated Press reporting this morning, exclusive, U.S. Patriot missile stocks in Europe are beyond critical due to Iran war, officials say. I actually reported on that this morning based on the data that I had, but the AP has lots of sources inside the Defense Department. U.S. Patriot missile stocks in Europe are beyond critical due to the Iran war, with a defense official warning NATO could be forced to take punch after punch in the mouth in the event of a Russian ballistic missile attack. The U.S. has used roughly 65% of its Patriot interceptors, about 1,500 of the 2,330 during the Iran conflict. Stocks transferred to the Middle East have left Europe with a very limited capability to defend against even a single ballistic missile strike. Yeah, Donald Trump, the guy who bankrupted his casinos and bankrupted all of the companies he was associated with. Of course he's going to bankrupt our military. Dude's a bankrupter. The biggest tell? When Trump's like, I rebuilt the military. Whenever he says stuff like that, you know that means it's the opposite of it. Remember that 19-year-old Navy sailor who jumped from the USS Abraham Lincoln in an apparent suicide attempt? Well, now the Defense Department is going after him. He's facing disciplinary charges, and they're going after his family. His wife says he repeatedly sought mental health help and paternity leave before the incident. And then Hegseth was saying the following this morning regarding munitions. He was having one of his lunatic yelling at reporters. It was just so bizarre. Play this clip.
Why would I answer? I mean, this is kind of a stupid question I would never answer. Why would I answer a question about whether we do or do not have certain types of munitions? I will tell you we have 110%. Or I'll tell you we have one. I would never answer that question. And the press is foolish to want to press. An American press is foolish to want to press an American War Department about where we may or may not be on classified exquisite systems.
And then Hegseth said the following on Iran. We control the Strait of Hormuz. It's ours. Here, play this clip.
On the economic fury and all the pressure that he can bring to bear. And we know that Iran can't handle it. Ultimately, their economy is in a spiral. They also know that we control the Strait of Hormuz, that our blockade is ironclad, and that oil is flowing through, ultimately. And you've seen some of the numbers. Iran can't run anything through. We can. The world economy realizes that. And so they made a big bet on controlling it.
Nobody buys that at all. Harry Enton broke down the latest polling data on Trump's tariffs against Canada, what the American people think about these tariffs. Listen to what he had to say. Play this clip.
President Trump is losing on tariffs. He is losing on tariffs. The cost for him is great declines in popularity when it comes to tariffs. Just look at this turnaround, Johnny B. Okay, voters on Trump and tariffs. Look at this. Versus Kamala Harris, he was trusted more by 22 points over Kamala Harris. Very much in the green, very much in the positive territory. Look at this drop now. His net approval rating down through the floor. The St. Lawrence River, 30 points underwater. What is that, Johnny B? That is a 52-point switcheroo. With independents, he's 60 points underwater when it comes to her. John has the arms out like this because it's just one of these shifts that we have seen throughout the President Trump's second term, whereby the reality did not meet the perceptions or the hopes beforehand. Americans hate the tariffs, and they are taking their anger out on President Trump.
60 points underwater on tariffs?
60 points underwater on tariffs. Yes, I double, triple, quadruple check that. That is right. He is 60 points underwater on tariffs.
Okay, how with independence?
With independence.
When we're talking specifically about this situation with Canada, how about that?
Yeah. If you think the American people don't like the tariffs overall, what about with Canada? It's the same story. It's the same story. They hate them. I mean, just take a look here. Okay, net support, new tariffs on Canada. Overall, the net support, look at that. 33 points underwater. Again, the story with independents, The exact same thing. Independents hate him even more than the general electorate. 44 points underwater when it comes to the net support. So they don't like the tariffs overall. They don't like the idea of new tariffs on Canada, even more so. And independents, again, you gotta get the center of the electorate if you want to win in elections. And the independents, this has again been the story throughout Trump's second term, they hate it even more than the general.
And I will note that there was a good interview on MS Now this morning with Chrystia Freeland, who used to be the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada and a Finance Minister in Canada in the prior government. Here's what she said about, you think Canada's so hard to get along with is like the craziest thing. You know, it really takes like a lunatic regime to believe that Canada's hard to get along with. Here, play this clip.
This notion that Canada is hard to get along with. I think a regular American person will say, wow, that's kind of weird. I find the Canadians to be quite nice. But I can also give you a data point, which is Canada is the only G7 country that has a trade deal with every other G7 country. So the rest of the world finds it pretty easy to do trade deals with us, and they want to do it.
And then Chrystia Freeland made a point that I make frequently, and she and I are around the same age, growing up with South Park, and where they would do the joke about blaming Canada for everything, and it was so absurd that people would blame all of their problems on Canada. But that's what Trump does. Trump's a blamer. And as I've said, this is what Trump does. Like whether it's a Dr. Fauci, whether it's a Biden or whoever, Trump's a blamer. He's never built. He doesn't do deals. He's just a blamer. And he hoards for himself. He steals and he takes and he crimes. And he's a sexual predator. He's a sicko. He's a deviant. He takes it all for himself. And then when people are suffering, he just blames, and points the finger. The arsonist pointing the finger at the firefighters. He's a real sicko. Listen to what Chrystia Freeland says. Play this clip.
Cannot believe we're talking about the United States and Canada. How damaging could prolonged trade talks be for both of our economies? This serves no one.
Stephanie, I could not agree with you more. And at some level, it's so absurd that it can be hard to formulate words about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes. So I am old enough to remember South Park had this movie whose premise, and it was like a comedy, and the premise was so ridiculous that it made it a joke. And it was called Blame Canada. And the premise was that sort of a pathetic U.S. government to distract from domestic problems was blaming Canada and actually ended up going to war. And what made it funny was it was absurd because there would never be a conflict between the U.S. and Canada. But now there is.
And also, I want to share with you finally what Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service chief had to say. He said, there's nothing unusual about the meeting that I had with CIA Director John Ratcliffe. In the work of intelligence services, face-to-face meetings between their chiefs are part of the job. A number of issues falling within the competence of the intelligence services were discussed at the meeting. I meet practically every week with the head of one intelligence or special service from around the world. Well, obviously, a meeting with the head of the CIA is something that's not normal and hasn't happened in quite some time. The US people deserve some transparency about what the hell took place. I don't believe the reporting that it was purely about warning Russia, don't attack NATO or else we're out of weapons. We can't defend NATO anymore in the United States. I believe that it was, trying to beg Russia for help with economic D-Day on Iran. We're getting close to the election. I have anyone who believes that Donald Trump's going to stand up to Putin. I have an Albanian island to sell you. Okay, Trump ain't standing up to Putin. Okay, let's be very clear. And anyone in Trump's regime ain't standing up to Putin. That's been made very clear repeatedly. So stop the nonsense. That's where we are today. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Get your copy of WTF America, the book I wrote with my brothers. We appreciate you. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Before you go, our book, WTF America, is available for pre-order now. It's the story of how we got here and how we fight our way back. To pre-order, scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Let's do this.